what I think Alan and his friends have concocted here is something that Paul would identify as intentional ambiguity. Intentional ambiguity. It's almost like parable. The moment you hear it, the mind becomes active, trying to grasp it, and is not quite clear. The mind is teased, says Dodd, teased into active thought. Center for Teaching Churches. Center for Teaching Churches. Which is it? I was going to ask Ron Grizzle which it was, but I knew he would know. Answer would be, if I said, which is it? Center for Teaching Churches or Center for Teaching Churches? And he would say, yes. That is the right answer. Now, I don't want to give you the impression I think this is messianic. It is extremely important what you're doing and conceiving, and will bless the church far and wide for generations yet to come. No question about that in my mind. But I don't want to leave the impression that there is a shortage of imagination or lack of imagination in the church and in the ministry. I run into it a good deal. When we lived in Oklahoma, where I taught for a while, there was a little church in southeast Oklahoma that was drying up. It was in a small town that had been a boom town during the oil days. The oil wells had stopped, and that was all over. But there were a few people in town that had become extremely wealthy. And in this one little congregation, there were 14 millionaires. Average Sunday attendance, 44. They would bring in a new minister and say, get some young people. We need young people. And if they didn't have a bunch of young people, within a few months, they'd fire them and get somebody else. And they had all this money, and they were up in years. They were faithful church, good people, men and women, but they didn't know what to do. One minister they called there said, I know what you can do. There is a new congregation in Oklahoma City that's made up of all young people, young couples with children, running around everywhere. But they don't have any money. They have mortgage on the house, on the car, the dishwasher. The kids are in school. They're both having to work. They don't have any money. We can't put up a building. What are we going to do? The little huddle of rich people and the growing huddle of young, vivacious, poor people were put in touch with each other. And they adopted each other. And they grew in their relationship. The wealthy old men, most of them men, wealthy elderly people in this little church that was dying, sent money in buckets to that new church. And that new church sent good news and reports of growth and vitality to the old folks who called it their Sunday school. You know, we have a Sunday school over in Oklahoma City. You don't see many people here because they're over in Oklahoma City. Were saying, you people are wondering how we pay for this. We got friends over in the Seminole. It's a wonderful thing. I found out recently it's still going, only it involves more churches. I thought back on my own seminary education, there was nothing in the manual about that. That's called imagination. It's like intentional ambiguity. It's imagination. I went not too long ago to a church, typical building, sanctuary here, educational wing, fellowship hall, nice building, relatively new. I arrived just in time to find somebody to tell me what to do. And there was in the aisle, as I went in, I don't know what direction, there was in the aisle one of these little stands. There's an iron base and you can roll it around and it says, quiet please, we're having church. So I just tiptoed up past that sign and cracked the door, and nobody was in there. Your typical hypocrisy. This noise about we're having church and nothing going on there. And I talked to the minister, and he said, I was on my way to roll it down the hall. I said, where is it going? He said, we've had that sign now for several weeks, and I roll it sometimes in front of the sanctuary. Quiet, please, we're having church. Sometimes I roll it down in front of Fellowship Hall when we're having Wednesday night dinner. Quiet, please, we're having church. Sometimes I roll it down to the education wing in front of the children. Quiet, please, we're having church. Why are you doing that? Because that is church. I get so tired of people saying, well, I was there for Sunday school, but I didn't stay for church. Have you ever heard that? Are you going to stay for church? Mama, do I have to stay for church? What have you been having for an hour? Here's a young minister that has a sign that he rolls down the hallways telling the people, this too is church. Board of Deacons meet, he rolls it out there. Quiet, please, we're having church. I like it. I'm going to get one of those signs. Because to this day, there are people who will say, well, I think I can be there on Wednesday night, but I can't be there for church. What are they talking about? I like this program. It's going to roll the sign up and down the hallways of the seminary and the churches and the homes of the ministers until it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Now,